Are you a state pensioner with just £597 to spare each year? Well, that's exactly how close millions of UK pensioners are to being pushed into paying income tax for the first time. That's right, the state pension is creeping dangerously close to exceeding the personal tax-free allowance, and most people have no idea it's happening. Could you be one of the millions about to face an unexpected tax bill? Before we dive deeper into this shocking development, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss vital updates that could save you thousands in unexpected taxes. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about something that's flying under the radar for most UK pensioners, the fact that your state pension is rapidly approaching the tax threshold. This isn't some distant concern, it's happening right now, and according to experts, by 2027, millions of pensioners could find themselves paying income tax on their state pension for the very first time. Let's break down exactly what's happening. In April this year, we saw the state pension increase by 4.1%, bringing it to £12,014 annually. Now, that might sound like good news, more money for pensioners, right? But here's where it gets concerning. The standard personal tax-free allowance, that's the amount of income you don't pay tax on, is currently frozen at £12,570 until 2028. Do you see the problem? There's now just £597 between the full state pension and the tax threshold. And with pension increases outpacing the frozen tax threshold, we're rapidly approaching a situation where pensioners will start paying income tax on their state pension. So when exactly might this happen? According to Stephen Cameron, pensions director at Aegon, with inflation expected to be around 3.2% next year, the state pension could rise to £12,398 in 2026-27, and by the 2027-28 tax year, it's estimated the state pension will increase to £12,579, that's £9 above the tax threshold. But what does this actually mean for your finances? Let me explain how the tax system works, because there's a lot of confusion around this. The personal allowance is the amount of income you don't pay tax on. Currently, that's £12,570. If your total income, including your state pension and any other income sources, exceeds this amount, you'll pay 20% tax, but only on the portion that exceeds the threshold. Let's look at a practical example. If your total income is £13,570, that's £1,000 above the threshold. You'd pay 20% tax on that £1,000, which equals £200 in tax. You don't pay 20% on your entire income, just the bit that's over the threshold. This is a crucial point that many people misunderstand. I've had conversations with people who've told me they're thinking of turning down a pay rise because it would push them into a higher tax bracket, and they believe they'd take home less money overall. That's completely incorrect. When you earn more, you will always take home more. It's just that the portion above certain thresholds gets taxed at a higher rate. But back to our pensioners. What's particularly concerning about this situation is that many state pensioners have never had to deal with income tax before. If the state pension has been their only source of income, they've likely never exceeded the personal allowance. So this change could catch many people off guard, leaving them unprepared for a tax bill they never expected. So what can be done about this situation? Well, there is currently a petition to Parliament calling for the personal tax-free allowance to be raised from £12,570 to £20,000. The petition, started by Alan David Frost, argues that this would help low earners get off benefits and allow pensioners a decent income. It's already gathered more than 230,000 signatures and received a response from the Treasury, although no changes were made in the Spring Statement 2025. But what if you're concerned about this issue right now? What can you do to prepare? Well, the first step is to understand your total income position. Remember, the tax threshold applies to your total income from all sources, not just your state pension. So if you have other income from private pensions, investments, or perhaps a part-time job, you need to add all of these together to see if you exceed the personal allowance. And what about those who are already paying tax on their state pension? Are there any ways to reduce your tax bill? This is where good financial planning comes in. There are legitimate ways to manage your income to minimize tax. For example, you might consider maximizing your ISA allowances, as income from ISAs doesn't count towards your taxable income, or you might explore whether pension contributions could help reduce your taxable income. Let's pause here and consider a question many of you might be asking. If I'm close to the tax threshold, should I be worried about small increases in my income? It's a good question. And the answer is that you should always be aware of your position relative to tax thresholds, but you shouldn't avoid additional income just because of tax implications. Remember, even if you go over the threshold, you're only taxed on the portion that exceeds it. Another question I often hear is, does this affect all pensioners equally? The answer is no. This issue primarily affects those whose main or only income is the full state pension. If you're already receiving other substantial income, you're likely already paying income tax on your state pension. And if you're not receiving the full state pension amount, you might still be below the threshold even after future increases. It's also worth noting that the rules are slightly different in Scotland compared to England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, although the principle remains the same. Now, let's address another crucial point. What happens if your income exceeds £100,000? At this point, the tax system becomes even more complex. For every £2 you earn over £100,000, you lose £1 of your tax-free personal allowance. This means that by the time your income reaches £125,140, you'll have no personal allowance left at all. But let's be realistic, most state pensioners won't be anywhere near that £100,000 threshold. The more pressing concern for the majority is simply the state pension creeping above the basic personal allowance of £12,570. So what's the outlook for the future? Unless there's a change in policy, the personal allowance looks set to remain frozen until 2028. Meanwhile, the state pension will continue to increase each year under the triple lock system, which guarantees it rises by the highest of inflation, average wage growth, or 5%. This means the gap between the state pension and the tax threshold will continue to narrow and eventually disappear altogether. This situation represents what some might call a stealth tax on pensioners. While no one is explicitly raising taxes on pensioners, the freezing of tax thresholds while pensions increase with inflation effectively creates the same result: more pensioners paying income tax. As we approach the end of this video, let's recap the key points. The state pension is currently just £597 below the tax threshold. By 2027-28, it's projected to exceed that threshold. When this happens, pensioners will pay 20% tax on the portion of their income that exceeds £12,570. This could catch many pensioners by surprise, particularly those who have never dealt with income tax before. If you're concerned about how these changes might affect you or someone you know, it's worth seeking professional financial advice tailored to your specific circumstances. And don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful. Share it with anyone who might benefit from this information. And subscribe to our channel for more updates on financial matters affecting pensioners and everyone in the UK. Drop your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Are you concerned about these changes? Have you already been affected by similar tax threshold issues? Let's continue this important conversation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.